When 2001: A Space Odyssey opened in 1968, audiences weren't ready. Some walked out confused. Critics called it pretentious. But Stanley Kubrick and Arthur C. Clarke had created something Hollywood had never seen before, a science fiction film that asked questions instead of answering them. Made with practical effects that still look stunning today, it turned space travel into ballet and transformed cinema forever. From exploding light bulbs to trained leopards and a composer who didn't know his music was cut, 2001 is packed with bizarre behind-the-scenes stories. These are 15 weird facts about 2001: A Space Odyssey, the film that proved the future could be beautiful, terrifying, and utterly silent. Before we dive in, if you love discovering the hidden secrets behind cinema's greatest masterpieces, hit that subscribe button and hype the video. Trust me, the stories waiting ahead are absolutely mind-blowing. From a rotating set that nearly killed people to a composer who had no idea he was fired, this is going to be wild. Let's jump in. Number 1. The $750,000 hamster wheel. The Discovery's rotating interior wasn't just a set. It was an engineering marvel. Kubrick commissioned Vickers Armstrong, a British aircraft company, to build a 30-ton Ferris wheel that stood 38 feet in diameter and 10 feet wide. The cost? A staggering $750,000, about 11.5% of the film's $6.5 million visual effects budget. Inside this mechanical beast, desks, bunks, control panels, and even lighting rigs were bolted down, everything designed to function while spinning 360 degrees. Actors walked at the bottom while the entire wheel rotated around them at 3 miles per hour, creating the illusion they were defying gravity. The camera could either rotate with the set or stay fixed while the wheel spun past, making Gary Lockwood jog in place while the world turned beneath his feet. It wasn't just impressive, it was dangerous. Film lights exploded when turned upside down, raining hot glass on the crew who had to wear hard hats at all times. On one visit, AI pioneer Marvin Minsky nearly got killed by a falling pipe wrench. Kubrick, naturally, directed from inside a protective cage. Number 2. The pen that floated on glass. That iconic shot of the space hostess catching a floating pen looks effortless. But there was no CGI in 1968. Instead, the effects team used a brand new invention, double-sided tape. They stuck the pen to a large sheet of rotating glass, then moved it smoothly through the frame. If you watch closely, you can see the actress give it a slight tug to pull it free from the adhesive. It's a tiny flaw in an otherwise flawless illusion. The simplicity is what makes it brilliant. While other filmmakers would have overcomplicated it, Kubrick found elegance in minimalism. That pen became one of the most memorable objects in sci-fi history, all thanks to tape and timing. Number 3. 241 people walked out at the premiere. When 2001 premiered, it wasn't the triumph you'd expect. A grand total of 241 audience members walked out mid-screening, including Rock Hudson, who famously asked, "Will someone tell me what the hell this is about?" Critics were divided, many hated it. Some called it a disaster. MGM executives considered pulling it from theaters early to cut their losses. But then something unexpected happened. Young audiences, drawn to the psychedelic Stargate sequence, started flocking to theaters. They wanted to watch it while on LSD. The trippy visuals became a cultural phenomenon, and suddenly 2001 wasn't just a movie, it was an experience. Arthur C. Clarke later said if you completely understood 2001, they had failed. The confusion was intentional. The mystery was the point. Number 4. 88 minutes of pure silence. There's no dialogue for the first 25 minutes of the film, then none for the final 23 minutes. With other silent stretches scattered throughout, nearly 88 minutes of the movie, 59% of its runtime, is dialogue-free. Kubrick called it a visual, nonverbal experience, and he meant it. The film speaks through images, music, and movement. The apes discovering tools, the spacecraft waltzing to Strauss, Bowman's journey through the Stargate. All of it unfolds without a single word, forcing the audience to watch, interpret, and feel rather than listen. It was a radical departure from traditional storytelling, and it redefined what science fiction could be. Instead of exposition dumps and technobabble, Kubrick gave us silence, and in that silence, the universe felt infinite. Number 5. The composer who didn't know he was fired. Kubrick originally commissioned Alex North, who had scored Spartacus, to create an original soundtrack. North worked for months, composing a full orchestral score, but during post-production, Kubrick decided to use classical music instead. Johann Strauss's The Blue Danube, Richard Strauss's Also Sprach Zarathustra, Ligeti's eerie choral pieces. North had no idea his music was cut until he attended the film's premiere. Imagine sitting in that theater, waiting to hear your work, and realizing it's been replaced. The rejection was brutal, but Kubrick's instinct was right. The classical choices became iconic, inseparable from the film's identity. North's original recordings remained unreleased until 2007. Number 6. 90 tons of painted sand. For the lunar surface scenes, Kubrick didn't use location shooting or clever camera angles. He imported 90 tons of sand, had it washed, and then painted gray to match the moon's surface. Every grain was treated to achieve the perfect lifeless quality. The African landscapes in the Dawn of Man sequence, blown-up still photographs rear projected behind the actors. No footage, just images, carefully lit to blend with the foreground. Kubrick's obsession with realism extended to every frame. He consulted with NASA, he brought in IBM engineers, he made sure the equipment on screen would actually function on the moon. It wasn't just about looking realistic, it was about being realistic. Number 7. HAL's voice was a last-minute switch. HAL 9000, the film's chilling antagonist, was originally supposed to be female and named Athena. When Kubrick changed the gender, he hired actor Nigel Davenport to voice the role, but his thick British accent felt too distracting, so he was replaced by Martin Balsam. Then Kubrick decided Balsam's performance was too emotional. He needed someone colder, more detached. Enter Douglas Rain, the narrator of a Canadian documentary called Universe that Kubrick had admired. Rain's calm, polite, almost passive-aggressive delivery made HAL terrifying. He wasn't angry or evil, he was just doing what he thought was necessary. That voice became the gold standard for AI villainy, influencing everything from GLaDOS to Skynet. Number 8. Kubrick's breathing. During the spacewalk scenes, all you hear is the astronauts breathing inside their helmets. No music, no sound effects, just breath. According to Katharina Kubrick, those breaths weren't provided by the actors. They were recorded by Stanley Kubrick himself. He wanted complete control over the rhythm, the intensity, the emotion conveyed through something as simple as inhaling and exhaling. It's a small detail, but it's quintessentially Kubrick. Every element, no matter how minor, had to be perfect. And that breathing, that claustrophobic rhythmic sound, made the vacuum of space feel suffocating. Number 9. The title was almost something else. Kubrick and Clark considered dozens of names before settling on 2001, A Space Odyssey. Some contenders: Journey Beyond the Stars, Tunnel to the Stars, Planetfall, Universe. But when the film Fantastic Voyage was released, Kubrick reportedly hated it so much he didn't want his title to sound anything like it. So they chose 2001, a reference to the dawn of a new century and millennium. It was simple, bold, and unforgettable. The subtitle, A Space Odyssey, tied it to Homer's epic journey, suggesting this was more than just a sci-fi adventure. It was a mythological voyage through time, space, and consciousness. Number 10. The special effects took 18 months and cost $6.5 million. Out of the film's $10.5 million budget, $6.5 million went toward effects alone. The process was painstaking. Each shot required an average of 10 laboratory steps to complete. In total, 16,000 separate shots were taken to achieve just 205 effects: motion control, miniature models, front and rear projection, matte paintings, rotating sets. Every technique available was pushed to its limit. Kubrick shot 200 times more footage than ended up in the final cut. He refused shortcuts. He rejected techniques that would compromise sharpness or realism, even if they were faster and cheaper. It took nearly 2 years after principal photography wrapped to finish the effects. But the result was timeless. Decades later, filmmakers still study how Kubrick achieved what he did without computers. Number 11. The leopard attack that almost went wrong. The Dawn of Man sequence required real animals, including a leopard trained by Terry Duggan. The shoot was tense. The leopard had been wrestling with Duggan for months, but it didn't know Dan Richter, the actor in the ape suit. When the leopard jumped off a hill onto Duggan during filming, it spotted Richter and went after him. Duggan tackled it just in time. Throughout the day, the crew worked in close proximity to the animal with minimal protection. Years later, Richter recalled, "Everybody was very nervous because they figured Stanley's in a cage, he doesn't have a problem. The scene looks brutal on screen because it was genuinely dangerous. That raw energy came from real fear." Number 12. The lost footage found in a salt mine. When 2001 premiered on April 2, 1968, at the Uptown Theater in Washington, D.C., it ran 160 minutes long. The initial audience reaction was brutal. Kubrick later recalled, "I have never seen an audience so restless." Over the next week, as the film opened in New York and Los Angeles, walkouts continued. Between April 5 and 9, Kubrick and editor Ray Lovejoy worked furiously to trim the film, cutting between 17 and 19 minutes. The edited version was sent to theaters already showing the film with detailed instructions on how to make the cuts, meaning some theaters did it better than others. The trimmed material included a painting class on the lunar base featuring Kubrick's own daughters, additional scenes of life on the base, Floyd buying a Bush baby for his daughter from a futuristic department store via videophone, and a 10-minute black-and-white opening with scientists discussing extraterrestrial life. There were also additional spacewalks, more of Poole's murder sequence, and Bowman retrieving a spare antenna part from an octagonal corridor. Most dramatically cut was a montage showing life aboard Discovery, Bowman playing a piano with blue keys, possibly being awakened by HAL for breakfast, and scenes of astronauts flipping through virtual blue pages on their flat-screen newspads. Kubrick's rationale for the cuts was simple. It does take a few runnings to decide finally how long things should be, especially scenes which do not have narrative advancement as their guideline, but he remained dismissive of their importance. I didn't believe that the trims made a critical difference. The people who like it no matter what its length, and the same holds true for the people who hate it. For decades, this footage was thought lost forever. According to Kubrick's brother-in-law Jan Harlan, Kubrick was adamant the trims should never be seen. He kept the negatives in his garage and had them burned shortly before his death. Leon Vitali, Kubrick's longtime assistant, confirmed this. He personally supervised the loading of it to a truck, and then I went down to a big industrial waste lot and burned it. That's what he wanted. But in December 2010, Douglas Trumbull, the film's special effects supervisor, made a stunning announcement. Warner Bros. Had found 17 minutes of the cut footage, perfectly preserved, in a Kansas salt mine vault used for storage. The same facility that protected over 3,300 hours of The Tonight Show with Johnny Carson had safeguarded this piece of cinema history. The discovery reignited passionate debate about Kubrick's original vision. However, the footage has never been released to the public, out of respect for Kubrick's explicit wishes that it remain unseen. For fans who've analyzed every frame of the existing film, the idea of this forbidden footage remains one of cinema's most tantalizing mysteries. Number 13. HAL's name wasn't a hidden code, or was it? One of the most persistent and delicious theories in film history is that HAL's name is a one-letter shift from IBM. H comes before I, A comes before B, L comes before M. It seems too perfect to be coincidence. Clarke and Kubrick always insisted it was exactly that, stating that HAL stood for Heuristically Programmed Algorithmic Computer. In his book The Lost Worlds of 2001, Clarke addressed the rumor with exasperation. As is clearly stated in the novel, Chapter 16, HAL stands for Heuristically Programmed Algorithmic Computer. However, about once a week, some character spots the fact that HAL is one letter ahead of IBM and promptly assumes that Stanley and I were taking a crack at the estimable institution. As it happened, IBM had given us a good deal of help, so we were quite embarrassed by this and would have changed the name had we spotted the coincidence. In the sequel novel 2010 Odyssey 2, Clarke even has Dr. Chandra, HAL's creator, dismiss the theory as utter nonsense. But here's where it gets interesting. The film itself seems to play with this connection. IBM's logo appears prominently throughout 2001. It's visible on the Pan Am Clipper's cockpit instrument panel. It's shown on the lower arm keypad of Poole's spacesuit during his spacewalk. And in one scene, Frank Poole says, "I can't quite put my finger on what's wrong with HAL," while the camera lingers on an IBM logo in the background. Intentional commentary, accidental irony, there's more fuel for the conspiracy fire. When HAL is being deactivated, he sings Daisy Bell, the first song ever sung by a computer, which happened to be performed by an IBM 704 in 1961 during a speech synthesis demonstration that Clarke himself had witnessed. And here's a delightful coda. In 1966, just as 2001 was being made, graduate students at the University of Illinois founded a company called HAL Devices to sell ham radio parts. Years later, one of the founders, George Perrine, admitted he chose the name specifically to be one letter ahead of IBM. Whether Kubrick and Clarke truly didn't notice the connection or simply maintained plausible deniability for decades, we may never know. But the rumor persists, adding another layer of mystery to the film's legacy. Sometimes the best mysteries are the ones that can never be definitively solved. Number 14. Kubrick destroyed the models. After filming wrapped, Kubrick ordered all the spacecraft models and construction plans destroyed. He didn't want them used in future productions, cheapening his vision. This created a massive problem years later when 2010, the year We Make Contact, went into production. The filmmakers had to reconstruct the Discovery from scratch, using frame-by-frame blow-ups of the original 70mm print just to get the proportions right. It was an absurd, expensive complication, but it speaks to Kubrick's obsessive control. He didn't just make a movie. He made something singular, something that couldn't be replicated or borrowed. And even in destruction, his influence remained. Number 15. The film that predicted the future. 2001 didn't just imagine the future. It predicted it. Video calls, tablet computers, AI assistants, in-flight entertainment screens, digital cockpit displays. Nearly everything depicted in the film has come to pass, some of it eerily accurate. Clarke invented the concept of geostationary satellites. IBM contributed ideas for computer interfaces. Companies like Pan Am, Hilton, and Vogue collaborated to make the world feel lived in and real. The film even got small details right, like Velcro grip shoes for zero gravity. It wasn't prophecy, it was collaboration between visionaries who understood where technology was heading. And when 2001 actually arrived, we looked back at Kubrick's film and realized how much of it had come true. 2001, A Space Odyssey wasn't just a movie. It was a statement. Science fiction didn't have to be about laser guns and bug-eyed monsters. It could be philosophical, poetic, and profoundly human. Kubrick and Clarke asked the biggest questions. Where do we come from? Where are we going? What happens when we meet something beyond our understanding? More than 50 years later, the film still has no answers, only mysteries. And maybe that's the point. The monolith stands silent, offering no explanations. The Starchild watches Earth, waiting, and we're left wondering, just as those apes did millions of years ago, what comes next? If you enjoyed uncovering these hidden stories, make sure to subscribe, because the next journey through cinema's strangest corners might just be your favorite one yet.